Today's video is going to be a little bit different. We have the weekend and we're waiting for Sunday to get those daily expected moves for Monday of next week. So come back on Sunday, but thank you for clicking on my video because I'm about to show you some signals that should really scare you on the monthly side of things. On this channel, we do some technical analysis for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, NVIDIA, and AMD, and we are going to look at the macro side of things because we are hitting new all-time highs. Everyone is getting euphoric, but I think we're about to see this all ripped away very soon. Going into the SPY, we're going to be looking at the monthly chart here, and the big thing I'm noticing is we're hitting new all-time highs. I'm getting comments that are saying, hey, stop saying bearish things, and I'm sorry, I just call it how I see it. I was bullish in the short time frames throughout the week today, or this week, and we actually saw that bullishness come in, especially with NVIDIA, so we did see those bullish signals. Apple not confirming that move, but we are now talking about the grand scheme of things. What could really happen in 2024 with a monthly chart? And we're seeing that we are creating this divergence here. And if we do cross over down here on this MACD, we will confirm this divergence right by negative territory, which just tells us, hey, we have the potential for the market to go into a negative trend on a monthly scale. And we're hitting a time where everyone is bullish. There is a ton of peak euphoria. We're seeing blow off tops. We're seeing things hit prices that were kind of unheard of a year ago. And that's where we really need to be aware of signals like this, because if we start to get the monthly crossing, which one of them already has on a chart that we are going to cover today, you need to be aware of it because we could see much lower prices, even lower than this 350-ish price that we saw at the low of this pullback. Real quick, I did just want to tell you to the bullish side, we really want to wait for this to confirm, right? Because this could see another whole month of green before we actually see that ripped away. We can see this come all the way up into this area before this divergence is actually confirmed. But right now you do have that divergence. You have a week where everyone is piling in while the dollar is going higher. It is a good time to look at the macro side of things and really say, is this a good place to invest? Well, you're actually seeing signals that if they confirm, which they already have on one stock, that could lead to very much so lower prices, very low prices. Okay, the last time that we actually saw divergence in these types of areas, well, we saw downturns of close to 20%. So we saw one here. We actually saw another one on the RSI and the MACD at the same time, right before we got that COVID crash. And you are seeing that signal again on a bigger scale throughout this whole run that could lead to some kind of downfall. So if we do break through this low, this trend line is really the only thing that's going to hold us up. And if we want to see a complete negative trend on the monthly side of things, which I'm not leaning towards that right now. I do believe that we could see that turn back up one more time, maybe towards into 2025 or 2026. But right now you're seeing that first point of divergence proven. And if we're able to break through, say, this trend here, we're going to test this low and we may come down into our trend line, which is kind of our last line in the sand right around that 330 price point for the SPY. If we are able to break through that, we could literally see the SPY heading towards a price point of 156.80 through the span of this, what I believe to be a bear market coming. Qs, we have a similar thing. We have this wedging. We're actually breaking out to the upside of that wedge right now. So that is that euphoric move that if we're able to get back within this wedge, maybe it's some kind of fake out on the monthly scale. And we actually see that break down to lower levels, kind of testing this low again. If we're able to break through this trend line, similar thing. We could actually head towards the 200 on the monthly side of things, which would mean, hey, we're going maybe down to something like 170 on the Qs. The Qs, as of right now, we were talking about the resistances that are right here. It is a good time to talk about how there is divergence on the MACD. There is divergence on the RSI. These haven't confirmed yet, but once they do, you'll notice they're really close to negative territory. We have the opportunity to go into a negative trend on the monthly scale while everyone is so euphoric. Maybe this is where peak euphoria comes in and we actually see that drop off. Maybe we get another push higher that actually gives us that another peak euphoric move, and then we see that selling come in. I believe some bad news is around the corner. We just don't know what that bad news is right now, but we did see inflation tick up, so I'm paying attention to CPI in March because that actually could see with the Fed changing their tone of, hey, we don't feel like we're fully in control of inflation now. They literally said that in the FOMC minutes. That is a wake-up call. If we see CPI tick up one more time, you're going to see some kind of sell-off here, or if the Fed keeps rates where they are and we actually see bank failures and companies start to fail because of defaults on delinquencies and stuff like that on credit cards and on loans, we actually could see this flip over, cross on its MACD, and see the monthly go into a negative trend, which just invites negativity over time. This is where I wanted to show you guys the signal that has fully crossed. This has fully crossed, okay? So this is Apple. We're actually seeing that we have a monthly divergence between these two highs up here. So we see that monthly divergence on the MACD and we see that divergence on the RSI at the same time. We're seeing that curl over. So this has the potential now to get into negative territory, especially if we start to break through this triangle that we're in as of right now. It just invites us to come and test this low and invites us to come a little bit lower or even with that around this point. So 125 is really where I think Apple might be heading if we continue to prove this signal, right? Especially if we get into negative territory. If we get into negative territory, you're most likely breaking through this level, and we might see Apple actually fall down to where it was during the COVID lows. So this is something you really want to pay attention to. We're seeing peak euphoria. We're seeing a lot of bullishness come into this market. A lot of people saying this market cannot come down, but I am actually seeing a signal that just confirmed that said this market actually does have a good probability to come down right now. We've seen that big move and Apple did not participate. We talked about that all week, and that's why I got out of my bullish Apple trade. I was really thinking, hey, Apple needs to see a good push here. It didn't get that push. So now I have to pay attention because my red flags are flashing. I'm getting this crossing on the monthly scale of the MACD. We could see a monthly trend. That means we could see years of pain coming over the next few years here. Now let's look at Amazon, okay? Amazon looking very similar. It was in this channel. There's that peak euphoric move, and now we're getting up into a point of liquidity where we could see selling. This could be some kind of double topping. We even could go a little bit higher, but as of right now, you have that MACD that's setting up some kind of divergence. If this wants to curl over, look, it's in negative territory. The last time that we got into negative territory, well, it was right before this big drop. We got a little bounce, and we dropped a lot further, okay? So down here at this 80 price point, we actually could be testing that very, very soon if this is able to roll over. And if we surpass this low, then we're gonna be looking for a reaction off of that 200, or else we could see prices go lower. I really don't think it would go lower than the 200, but I'm open to whatever because we look like we are about to go into some kind of monthly negative trend on Amazon as well. Tesla, here's the big thing. I got a big sell signal here on the monthly scale, and you'll notice we're already in negative territory, getting a month of indecision at this point. Tesla's really been struggling to get a confirmation of all those daily 2-hour, 30-minute divergences we've been talking about in the shorter time frames, but this is telling you, hey, this is in a negative trend. And you can see it, right? We're coming down, we get into negative territory, we get that bounce up. We're back in negative territory again right here, breaking through this important triangle. We could see a test of this low down here for Tesla at $100. So really need to pay attention to these types of things because we're seeing peak euphoria in the market with these AI and chips, this whole bubbles, all these bubbles that are going on. But we're seeing on the flip side, a lot of things that are telling you, hey, there might be lower prices for a lot of these stocks. And we're most likely in some kind of bubble that people are just piling in money to NVIDIA and AMD and stocks like that. One stock that does not necessarily have that divergence on the monthly scale is NVIDIA, but this is because this is what everyone is piling into. And if you paid attention during the live videos, we actually brought up the fact that Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, all of these guys are selling stocks over the last couple of weeks. They're selling close to, I believe live we said it was about $8 billion from Jeff Bezos, and I think it was maybe some hundreds of millions from Zuckerberg. So we want to pay attention to that. This overall, what we need to pay attention to, there's no divergence up here. This is just a peak move, and when you get this big of a push, if people start to push the sell button, we actually can see algorithms get into this. We can see algorithmic selling because we're hitting new levels of highs, and people who pile in right here do not want to go underwater. So this 750 point is going to be very important next week, and we're going to talk about that on Sunday. So come back on Sunday. These daily expected moves did very, very good for us on Friday, but I just want you to see this is peak euphoria, and we do have that divergence still on the RSI up here. So we do see that RSI coming in a little bit lower right here, and we could be seeing some kind of push lower over the next few months. You see how people were really piling in money to NVIDIA because AMD not necessarily getting that full pile in, right? It got that surge. It still got that surge, but it did not, exceed right here on the MACD. So you do still have that opportunity for AMD to go into a negative trend. That means that it could possibly test this low or go make a new one. So we could be seeing AMD hit a price point of something like, right around this 200 on the monthly over the years here. And we could see some kind of price point of about $35 to $50 on AMD. It is a good time as an investor to just say, hey, do I actually want to invest here, or can I be patient and see if there are lower prices, considering I'm seeing a lot of signals that are not necessarily good for the overall market. And then since we did talk about Zuckerberg for a sec, I just wanted to show you the Meta, right? I wanted to show you Meta. We broke down through some levels. You see how when we get into negative territory, sure, we try to hold up there, but boom, that selling continues, okay? So negative territory is very important. You notice that we actually broke through the lows from COVID, okay? We broke through the lows from COVID, and that could happen again. So I'm going to create some trend lines. I'm really going to look at Meta over the next few days. But it is a stock to pay attention to. We're about to hit a trend line. So if we actually come up a little bit higher, you might hit that trend line. And there are 2-hour divergences and things like that in the shorter time frames that we'll go over on Sunday. I'm going to bring up Meta on Sunday. But just this connection between these highs, we're actually hitting a euphoric point where we could see some kind of dramatic sell-off, if not some kind of pullback to then head higher. So we really want to pay attention to these monthlies if they're able to cross on those MACDs. And we're going to update you on this stuff every single Saturday. Now, one thing I wanted to point out with all of this possible downturn on a monthly scale would be the fact that the dollar is in positive territory. The dollar's in positive territory. If we start to see strength out of this dollar here, we actually could go further into positive territory, meaning we could test this high, we could go make a new one. And right now we're just in a channel and we're able to hold it at this point. So we could be heading higher in the dollar. The dollar's already heading higher while we're hitting new all-time highs, which is a big warning flag. It means somebody is selling. We already told you Jeff Bezos, the insiders are selling right now. The smart money might be selling to those FOMOers at the end here. We might see this ripped away really, really soon. The VIX, the main thing we wanted to pay attention to, that monthly hasn't crossed up. It's not near positive territory, but this is the signal that we've been really paying attention to. This weekly divergence on the RSI, on the MACD at the same time. Okay, so we have these at the same time. And if we start to round out from here, we could really see this get into positive territory. We've already confirmed the divergence. We know for the last few weeks that volatility wants to come back into this market with some little spikes. So if this is able to get into positive territory, we might even see this trend break and we could head up to a 36 or a 40 over the next few months. So we want to pay attention to this signal. It is a time while everyone is euphoric, and even we were bullish this week, but now we have to pay attention to the signals and say, hey, this is all-time highs again. We're seeing those 2-hour divergences. We're seeing these divergences on a monthly scale that even crossed on Apple. So we need to pay attention to any potential downside. And is this a good place to invest? Well, the signals are telling me be a little bit patient here. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about was TLT, and we were talking about the scenario where the Fed actually has to cut. They've mentioned they do not want to cut multiple times. They're holding those rates higher for longer, and it is causing the banks to stress out. So we're actually seeing a divergence here on TLT at those levels we were talking about. We talked about this 8250. We literally bounced off that to the penny. So thank you if you were around for the channel, if you were subscribed for that, because it was a great, great moment. We just found some good support in here. We looked at our daily charts and things like that, and we were like, that 8250 looks like a good point to start to invest if you're on the TLT side of things. Now you have this divergence that has confirmed on the monthly. Looks like you're moving sideways. If we start to get above this 200 and spread out these Bollinger Bands, we could be seeing a huge reaction in TLT, which tells you that the Fed might have to cut rates for some reason. And if people see that as good news initially, they might be notified about those rate cuts, so they might buy into that rumor, and then they may sell that news, because we actually know that when the Fed actually is forced to cut rates, it's because something in the system is breaking and you're inviting a bear market, you're inviting some kind of crash. But the main takeaway here is we are in a period of time where we are bullish, and everyone is seeming to get so bullish that they think this market can't go down. And that's usually when we see something flip. So we have to pay attention. And the reason that we have to pay attention right now is because we have a ton of monthly divergences forming that haven't necessarily crossed. But the big thing is Apple already did. Apple confirmed the downward move. So if it is able to break through that triangle, say this week or into next month, we are going to see some pain in this market, and this euphoria may be short-lived. Thank you guys as always for watching. I hope you have a great weekend. Tune back in on Sunday. We're going to give you guys some daily ranges. It seems like you guys really do like that. We're going to give you those weekly ranges for the SPY and Qs as well. If you would like the weekly ranges for all the stocks that we cover on this channel, please give a look at my Patreon, and you can message me there too. So I appreciate you guys so much for coming in, for joining the live videos, liking all the time. You guys have been fantastic. I hope you guys have a good weekend and join me back on Sunday. All right. Have a good week. Peace.